Hey, let's do it. News, roundup, upcoming crowdfunding, hotness, all in one this week. It's going to be a great week. This is going to be a shorter video than usual, right? Tune in for your free content. I don't know, whatever we're doing here. But it's because there's not a whole lot of news this past week. The only news, and we'll just start off with this really quickly, is Berserk, the anime, manga, 2016 anime, 1997 manga, based off of the violent sort of people escaping a cult, attracting evil all over the place and dealing with it subsequently. I'm not going into it any further. You can look it up on Google or Wikipedia style of things. Well, Monolith picked them up. Monolith picked this up, and it's going to be a, dark dungeon crawl, miniature based ish campaign game, I would assume. Maybe scenarios, who knows? But, right? Monolith. Okay, right? I've been saying for years now that a lot of these animes and mangas are ripe for the picking. And so if this does gangbusters, honestly, I have no interest in it. I never watched this one, as big of a geek nerd person that I am. Never had the appeal to me. But if this does well, just like we saw with video games, where the dominoes started falling because people said, light bulb, whoa, there's actually stuff out there that we don't need to be creative about in terms of environment and art and all that other stuff to begin with, and we can just adapt it to the tabletop, dominoes will fall here too, and you'll see a little bit more manga stuff or anime stuff hit the table, like One Piece. Just your big ones. Naruto, Bleaches, My Hero Academy, just other ones that are ripe for, well, something cool with the stuff that we're now seeing excellence-wise on the board game side of things, tabletop-wise. The only other thing that I saw that was actually newsworthy of note that I think was actually not even that recent, but within the last month or so, just somehow escaped my eye. One of my big criticisms for one of my reviews earlier this year of an engine building card game by the name you may remember, A Vale of Eternity, not having enough cards. Well, there's an expansion. There's an expansion already announced, and it'll probably be out by Essen. So, boom, there you go. Addressing my criticism, just give me more. Don't power creep it. Don't add elements or dynamics or significant amount of layers. Just give me more of a good thing. So that's really what I'm interested in. So let's just go straight over to the upcoming crowdfunding, right? This video, again, slamming through points this week. First week of July is a relatively smaller week as a whole. Either tomorrow or the next day, we'll be talking about the whole month. I have a whole video because this is probably going to be second to June. This and June are going to arguably be, 1 and 2 right now in terms of the biggest stuff launching this month. And so first up, again, I'll be having a coverage probably, on the day that this goes live, of Brink, IV Studios' latest set in the Moonrakers universe, taking more of a Fractured Sky approach to Moonrakers with a hidden bidding element of things, area control style, but with the ships that you're controlling as you move them around to various areas, and having various points based on the faction colors that you're touching in the first place. Yeah, they have a little integrated hidden website with a little scrawling narrative that you can sort of deduce your way through that I kind of did a portion of when it came out. You can kind of link to that if you're clever enough over off of IV Games' studio website. But yeah, it's going to be an intriguing test of things. IV Studios Deluxeified, it's going to be a price point. I would argue that our Moonrakers is or has been their most widely reaching. I don't know, money wise, units wise, but I feel like that one has had a great retail presence that people have really been enamored with. But again, it's going to have some of the deluxeifications and deluxeifications that are going to be crowdfunding exclusive. Say what you want, right? It's chip theory, just in a different form where that's where you're paying and that's what you're going to be expecting. Are you okay with that? That'd be really interesting to see. And I probably shouldn't put this in Austin's head, but they haven't done like the strategist, right? We just saw that with the other more recent game from Galactic Cruise where they said strategist pledge level like chip theory, but I wonder if other companies are ever going to pick that up. That's just a complete and utter side note there. The other big one that's going to be launching as well is Terrorscape over on GameFound, recently announced with the GameFound Feast. Well, Terrorscape is coming back with a reprint and more expansions. And do you want to pay for a multiplayer Final Girl? Because that's, again, not facetiously speaking, but just jokingly aside, that's kind of what it gives me the vibes of, right? It's one versus all, a killer versus, survivors trying to escape, trying to, avoid the killer, trying to beat the killer. And you have different scenarios. You've got sort of the diorama-esque vibe going on there where you're paying for deluxeifications in that standpoint. So again, do you like that sort of thing? Again, people are, shouting and enamored with it from the rooftops. So, the first edition was, again, one of those where I've said on this channel plenty of times, the horror theme, just scary movies, horror in general doesn't vibe with me. I never watched the movies, I never watched the video games, I never did Resident Evils, none of those. It's just, again, a swing and a miss for me personally. I don't know, just we all have our own biases. That's just my own. So this one doesn't have any interest to me. Again, it'd be one of those games where if somebody brought over to game night, I'd totally be up for it. Me, I love One versus Alls, but that's the thing, right? This is Final Girl in that sense, where you are sort of, again, that same scenario, only it's instead of you're the protagonist versus the antagonist, one versus, you know, a group. And that's a dynamic difference that a lot of people in this hobby don't like of that mechanism. So, you know what? That's okay too, and there's nothing wrong with that. Then we also have Emerald Skulls coming from Thunderworks as well, launching on the same day. Emerald Scrolls, though, is a completely different game of gambler's dice, where you're going to be gradually pushing your luck, skull board filled with dice placement, real-time wagers, and betting on the outcomes of your opponent's rolls as a whole. So roll dice, get tricks to place them in the tiers of the skull that are ascending, but if you place dice, you can't get them back. So you just need to be aware of that on your push your luck style of things. Place bets, counter bets, and, well, just wager up to twice per round. So do you like that sort of thing? Sort of a, well, liar's dice in a different way? Ish, you know. So it's set in the typical Thunderworks universes of the role player. It's got that usual aesthetic if you're looking for that, and we'll see what they do, because they usually offer a little mini expansion, a little promo to go along with it, and again, a little bit lighter as a whole. So we've seen really good success on crowdfunding with some of that stuff from 25th Century Games as well as All Play. So I wouldn't be surprised if Thunderworks is tapping into that a little bit as well. Last but not least, I can't believe this almost passed me by or forgot about it, because again, Matago is bringing back Kemet Blood and Sand with a 2 new modular expansion. 1, just more modules and more stuff, and then 2, I believe they say a 6-player module in addition to that. So did you miss it the first time around? It's definitely going with the Cyclades vibe with Blood and Sand there, or maybe Cyclades did the Kemet Blood and Sand style, if you will, because Kemet was actually first with the remake, I believe. But basically what they did is they took some of the expansion content, distilled it down into a core base game, and put out a new edition. And they did that with now Kemet, they did that with now Cyclades, and now they're coming back to the Kemet version of things. And you're going to see if these 2 modules are more of a good thing for you, because they've also taken more content from 2 of the later expansions. I forget which ones, Seth and Sati, I think, if I'm remembering those names correctly. I'm not as familiar with Kemet, truth be told. But they're bringing elements from those back, and they're distilling it down into just more content that maybe is just going to be better. And so, again, I have mixed feelings about games that do this, right? Because if you were an original Kemet owner, if you were an original Cyclades owner, and you don't know the stuff, and you had all this stuff, and you loved all the stuff, do you want this iteration? Sort of like the Bruges versus Hamburg, sort of like a King of Tokyo, right? Where you've got your different iterations, or slight differences, or slight nuances. You might like some of those nuances slightly better in one way or the other. And so that's going to be the test of this market to see whether or not this is for you. Because again, it's deluxeified, it's miniaturized if you want that sort of thing, and it's a prettier penny-based price point if you want to pay that sort of thing, as well as a tax if you want to think of it like that. It's not really, but I just kind of went with it because that was the first thing that came out of my mouth. So does that intrigue you? Is this going to be the time that you get it around? I mean, again, like, solid game, no question about it, but do you need a new edition of this if you're one of the previous backers? Is this one going to be the entry point one, right? Like sort of King of Tokyo, where people say, okay, well, you just get Dark now because Dark addresses some of the issues that the lack of expansions in the base game had, or some people like the specific ways the expansions add a little bit of different dynamic than the way Dark does it. So, right? That's what you're looking at, and that's what you're trying to decide. So, area control, tech tree upgrades, battling, head-to-head, take that. Do you want to see more of that? Man, we'll see how it does. I have no clue. Matago, there you go. So, Hotness, right? I wasn't kidding. We're just blowing through things this week. The first up on the Hotness, I actually should have just grabbed it for this video. Foundations of Metropolis. You know what? I said screw it in the editing. I went and got it, right? Foundation of Metropolis, because I knew that you wouldn't believe me if I actually said that I had a copy of this, because Dice Tower just put out the review. I just got my copy. And so I will be taking on vacation with me this week and playing it to see if I like it, if it can do what Foundations of Rome did. It's tile laying. It's just tile laying, building your city, right? I think I have up to 5 players of this, and we'll see, how does this change? How does this different? I'll be frank with you guys as well. Like, I've never played Foundations of Rome. I don't know how to play Foundations of Rome. So I'm gonna have to do some research to see what is the basic difference of this and anything else. And is this just a standalone? Should you buy this if you have no affiliation with it in the first place? So, you know what? Hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks or so, I'll have some more information for you on that standpoint. I could do an unboxing. I don't think you guys want to see my unboxings though, right? You guys don't like those. Anyway, then Nightshift. I covered it on Crowdfunding Roundup, not this past week, but the week before when it launched. You know, it's getting the clicks. It's a stripper-based board game, and it's based off of someone who has a huge social media following. And I said, you know what? This isn't for me. It's a very straightforward, it's not going to be your niche gamers hobby game. But at the same time, you know, some people just want to put out a game. People were critiquing it over in Reddit, and there's a battle back and forth, misogyny and, you know, gatekeeping and all of those, you know, usual things that come up. But you know what? The truth of it is, if people are going to pay for it, yeah, it's overpriced for what it is comparatively. It's a little bit simpler comparatively, especially at the price point. But you know what? If you get it and you like it, sure, go for it. I don't really care. You know, I'm not going to rain on your parade. Don't rain on my parade. So you know what? So be it. It is what it is. And again, people vote with their wallets on these things. So everybody starts somewhere. If it's for you, great. If it's not, whatever, deal with it. Arcs is on the radar again because, again, it's just Arcs, right? And then you're going to start to see more and more stuff come out with it. I'm going to bring that on vacation with me as well, too, and see if I can get it played. Don't know if I'm going to bring the expansion, though. This is a big mother of a box right here. And I'm trying to bring a lot more smaller boxes this year, so I feel less guilty when they don't all get played. And when I say that, I mean they don't all get played. I mean when the majority of them don't get played, I don't feel as bad about bringing such heavy stuff and lugging it around and not getting it played in that way. Cities from Devir, I mean, talking about city building games as a whole, I mean 8 rounds, 4 rounds in a 2-player game. You're using your workers, collect, score, feature tiles all over the place, and you're drafting projects and arranging them in your area. So it's a little bit slightly different twist on that. I don't know if it's necessarily as heavy, or it's probably actually similar weight to Foundation Metropolis with a 2.0 rating on Board Game Geek right now, and it's supposedly supposed to be released at wide retail in August. So it's on my list, or my short list of things to kind of keep my eye on for a retail side of things for the second half of 2024. Spoilers, that video might be coming out this coming week. Because, you know, I'm looking at the second half of the year and I'm saying, what should you anticipate? How should you budget? And what should you not FOMO on, right? Both retail and crowdfunding. Boom! Shakalaka! Spoilers if you're paying attention to this part of the video. So it's got a bunch of ratings on Board Game Geek already, 56 somehow, but you've got like the pre-release copies and the people who play it online and the people who pirated. I don't even know. I just made up the last part about pirating. I don't think you can pirate a game like this. But anyway, I'm just talking fast because it's fun today. What else is on the Hotness? Ichor and Iliad. Bitewings duo, right? Covered it. My video's on the page. Boom! Again, you know what? That makes me excited, folks. You know, I still think of myself as a very small channel, a very minute voice in this hobby. And so anytime I get a video on a channel like that, on a page like that, I get excited. And if you don't get excited by that anymore, you know, that's on you. Because, right? That's why we do this in the first place. Anyway, Ichor and Iliad. 1 is a 2-player tile layer, a 6x6 grid with alternating red and blue tiles. As you sum up the scores, even rows or columns, you get the set collection pieces from around the outside, and then you have to get a certain set in order to win. But if you can't get that set and no one gets that set, then you score up the sum total of those points around the outside, not the middle. The middle only determines what gets the outside. So it's an interesting dynamic there. The numbers are 1 through 5. 1 through 4 give special powers that allow you to rearrange the tiles and mitigate based on what you and your opponent want to do. Then you have, again, if I'm not screwing this up, I'm going to screw it up. So I'm not even going to say the name so I don't mess it up. The other game, right, both Nizia games, is going to be more of a Santorini abstract laying tile placement in a different way. Because what you're going to have is you're going to have these tokens, not really tiles, I guess, tokens that you're laying down, trailing the monsters of the gods as you move them across the 6x6 or 7x7 grid. And the object is just really to lay all of those tokens down. And the tricky part, the different aspect that makes it a little bit less abstract-y, a little bit more tactical, a little bit more strategic all in one, is you have 6 or 7, again, depending on if it's a 6x6 or 7x7 grid of monsters or heroes on each side. And each of them has a one-time special ability that you can use. Instead of moving one of your characters, you can take their special abilities, which also allow for manipulation of said tokens, spaces, monsters or heroes, or even win conditions as a whole. Little gated expansion to go along with it. Depending on how you go through the gate, you get a special power. And so it gives you another cool thing. They're both fantastic games, but they have to be right fantastic games for you. Pillar to Hercules, that was another crowdfunding game. Sort of, I think it was a little like 4X Civish building game from a couple weeks ago on crowdfunding. That's ending this week. Harmonies is still chilling there. Foundations of Rome, because of the foundations of Metropolis, is chilling there. Slay the Spire is still slaying games all over the place, left and right. It's becoming ubiquitous with the Hotness, along with Heat, Pedal to the Metal. Dune Imperium Uprising is sitting on there again, and Grim Coven is lurking at the bottom. As I covered Grim Coven on my Do Not Back Grim Coven or Back Grim Coven, depending on which side of things you fall from earlier in the week. So that campaign just ended and it's getting a lot of clicks because everyone wants to know what to do. Everyone wants advice. Everyone wants other people's advice. So again, I'll throw my opinion out there. My opinion's always wrong, as I said in the video, right? Like, don't listen to me, right? Do what you want to do, but actually, you know, consider, is this actually right for you? So take that for what you will. And then Jest of Robin Hood, the latest GMT game, 2-player head-to-head coin-esque system that's supposed to be easier to play, but still is like a 30-page rulebook. So again, one of those games I'd love to, in theory, play, but my wife would kill me with daggers in her eyes if I tried to sit down and try and explain it to her in the first place. She has a low threshold for, like, rules have to be 5 minutes for her or less, or she gets mad at me. It doesn't stop me from, you know, trying, and she puts up with me most of the time. And then last up, as I talked about in the news roundup from last week, Horrified, the World of Monsters, the latest iteration for just more global spanning monsters to be compatible with the previous 2 editions of Horrified, to give you different combinations of monsters you can go up against as a competitive pandemic-esque style game as well. Harmonies is still chilling there too. I haven't been able to get a copy. Reprint's not going to happen. I don't even know until August, September. No one's selling, no one's trading. So I'm trying, but you know what? It'll eventually end up in my collection, even though it's like going to be one of those games just like last year, right? Where everyone's got their copy. It's on their top 10 lists of 2024, and I'm getting my copy in 2025 because, right? Just how you do things sometimes. So there you go. As I said, I mean, that's pretty much it. I'm just going to end that there. I mean, I could talk about a few other things. I was maybe going to throw in some Foundation Metropolis unboxing. I'm not sure if I'm going to do unboxing. I may have a review or two out this week as well, including the Brink one. I've got some comments about Distilled. I've got some comments about a few other games. I'm going to do probably a multi-game review here in the near future as well, going through short synopses of a couple different games in addition. But that might be after I get back from vacation, because you know what? Your boy's on vacation this week. So don't worry, there'll be some videos. There will be no crowdfunding roundup in case you missed that from yesterday, which just means I get to do 2 weeks in one. And you know, when I don't get to cover it in a week and I come back after, if you've seen that video, that is always me smashing through stuff. Because the other thing that will happen then is on that roundup, not only will have Brink and all the other ones from this past week that I'm talking about that I just mentioned earlier in the video, but we'll have the second week of July. And spoilers, I guess we'll end with this news note, is that DC United just announced, DC Heroes United actually, because there's some naming issue, DC Heroes United just announced that they're going live on July 10th, so that would be the following week. So that week is going to be massive, because then also you have Wandering Galaxy from Plaid Hat Games, you have the 20 Strong Tanglewoods, you have a new one deck dungeon, and that's just going to be a ton of games. And that's all the ones that we know, that and all the ones that we don't know are also going to come up. And again, it's just going to be massive. It's going to be probably one of the longer videos of the year, and I'll probably put like an hour and a half. The one from this past week was around 50 minutes, so imagine 2 weeks. I mean, those are long videos. Those videos take a ton of work, folks, especially to do them between the campaigns launching Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday and have it out on Friday. Like, I know a lot of the other people do their cycles like on Monday or Sunday or, you know, that style of things, which gives them like the whole weekend to do it. But I like doing it at the end of the week. I've always done it at the end of the week, and so I'm going to try and continue to do the end of the week. At some point, it might not be feasible, but I like doing it, and I like just like talking about it and making that a regular video. So anyway, that's all I got. Stay classy, have a great freaking day. Again, some awesome stuff coming out next week, a rant video too. Again, I'm gonna have to actually pick and choose because I'm not gonna have time for all of them, which is actually fantastic to do and to have and to think about. So I will need to go film a little bit of stuff later after this. I'm looking at you, Brink. Oh yeah, let's go. Peace out, stay classy, have a great freaking day.